the Mighty Normal podcast. I am here with Major General Malcolm Frost from the United States Army. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Teresa. My pleasure to be here.
Now, you'd like me to call you Malcolm, right? Or Sir Malcolm on this?
No, not Sir Malcolm. Malcolm is fine. It's
okay.
Like I like to say, I was born Malcolm, I'm going to die Malcolm, so please call me that.
Malcolm, got it. So I would like everyone, I want to give everyone a story of how Malcolm and I met. And by the way, a Major General is a 2-star general in the Army. So just for those of you out there who are not military, background in military, that's very high up. That's one of the highest ranks you can achieve in the Army. So, and it took you how many years, Malcolm?
To make general officer?
Yes, general officer.
25 years before, so I've been 6 years as a general officer, 1-star, then 2-star general,
Okay, so not a whole long time, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much a whole career,
Just a whole millennial's life. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so Malcolm, welcome to the podcast. I am very honored to have you on. For those of you just getting to know Malcolm today, you're going to learn a lot about him and how he got to the rank he is, but also kind of what made him into the human he is today, which didn't come without adversity. And that is a theme of this podcast is we do look at the adversity in our lives. However, how do you accept the changes you're going through, whether it's from a permanent injury or job shift or change in your life, and accept where you're at and thrive in it. A lot of people don't know how to thrive in the new normals that they have either on a daily basis or happen each year or whatever big changes happen in your life. So that's the focus of this podcast. I met Malcolm through a good friend of mine who is a former Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And her name is Elise Fernbach. She was also a guest on the show. And she and I got a chance to meet Malcolm because Malcolm was basically leading this new initiative in the Army called H2F, which is Holistic Health and Fitness. And essentially we learned about this H2F Industry Day and found out that General Frost here, Malcolm, was leading the charge on it. And this whole Holistic Health and Fitness Day, without even knowing him, just looking at it was like, oh wow, they're really taking charge over getting the soldier healthy, not only on a physical level, but a mental health level. They're looking at the spiritual health, and they're transforming the physical fitness test to this thing called the ACFT, which is the Army Combat Fitness Test. Did I say it right? Yeah. Okay, good.
Got it.
But when I was reading a little, and everyone that has listened to me, I'm a sports performance-based physical therapist. I really nerd out on strength and conditioning. I don't do traditional rehab. And I've always been fascinated with how the military trains how they've basically research and study and know that people are battle ready and ready for combat at any given time. And the PFTs just never really seem to fit the bill of telling a commander that someone's battle ready just by running and doing pull-ups. So when I saw the ACFT, and for those of you that don't know what those movements are, it's a deadlift, a drag lift and carry, a standing power throw, hand release push-up, a leg tuck, which is almost kind of like a toes to bar movement, but not. It's actually a very strict movement. There's no kipping involved in a 2-mile run. I was like, okay, there's some smart people behind this test because it's testing very much midline strength, endurance. They're not giving a soldier 5 hours to do this. They're giving them an hour to complete all of these tasks. And these tasks are basically testing someone's, if you look at the components of fitness, from muscular strength to power to speed, agility, they're testing all of those things. And so I was like, okay, this is the kind of industry day, this expo that you guys created, concept that I want to be a part of. And so when my colleague Elise told me about it and said that we got to connect with you, I was like, yes, I want to meet the thinker behind this. So Malcolm, in his last duty, was basically in charge of running the show for H2F. But you've had being in the Army for more than 25 years. What was it, 31. You've had some awesome duty stations as well. So I know H2F wasn't your only job. Like you where you focused your efforts. Like you were in Colorado, you've been in Hawaii. I looked at all the cool stations, by the way. Like I looked at all your duty stations, like,
They're almost all cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I could tell, like Italy.
Hawaii, Italy, Washington, D.C., Fort Bragg.
Yeah, not bad places.
No, not bad.
In the Marine Corps, I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, not a bad place. Didn't really live there because we were gone a lot. But when I did go to PT school, I did an internship in Colorado, Hawaii, and Austria. So, not military anymore, but pretty cool spots.
And although I was in Hawaii for all that time, I mean, I was turning and burning to Iraq as well.
Yeah,
so
right.
Yeah.
So you got to go on the beach and then go back to a different
sand, just a different type of sand.
Yes. Right. So you basically lived all over the world. You've had a lot of different jobs in the Army, and your last duty station was at Fort Eustis for the H-2F. So, and you are from Torrance, California, which, by the way, I mean, for those of you listening from San Diego, isn't very far from San Diego. And that's where I went to community college after the Marine Corps.
El Camino?
I went to El Camino.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
Know it well.
So El Camino was the place where, I mean, after the Marine Corps, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So my dad was like, go back to school, figure it out. And I always was passionate about health and fitness. So El Camino was right next door to where I was living and had offered me the prereqs for PT school.
Yeah, it's a great community college, by the way. Has been for decades.
So, and you also, so your college that you went to, I don't know if people have heard about this college, but it's Westpoint?
No, it's the South Hudson Institute of Technology. Have you heard of that? SHIT.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so I'm just kidding. So it's the United States Military Academy at Westpoint. Yeah, it's on the Hudson, South Hudson. So that's a little bit of an insight.
I like it.
Got you on that one.
Yeah, you did. Okay, I do have Westpoint friends. Some, anyway. I guess we can call each other friends now after this, Malcolm. They'll probably get it. So, what was it like at Westpoint way back in the day?
Wow. Well, it's just a huge culture shock, right? Because, Southern California boy growing up playing soccer, and then all of a sudden you're thrust in this hyper-disciplined environment, and all of your time is eaten up with studies, 24 hours, credit hours, a semester, and playing Division I soccer, and then also just getting hit with all of the military stuff that you had to do. It's pretty all-consuming. I mean, you really have to learn how to discipline your life, and you get good habits and how you can become the most effective and efficient with your time. But at the same time, it's a tremendous place to be. The institution itself, the education, the values, the traditions, and then that sense of service and belonging to something greater than yourself. It's really no place. There's no place like it on earth or in the country. And if you haven't been there, it really is a
beautiful
national institution. Yeah, it's a wonderful place, especially now, 31 years later.
Right. They've done a lot of work on the place.
Well, you have a different optic and view when you're like in the grind every day, 18, 19, 20 years old, right? You just, you don't understand the majesty and the beauty and the tradition. You do, but you just can't stop to pause and look at it. So that's why being an alumni going back, I just went there recently for an Army soccer alumni reunion, and it's just a great place to be with phenomenal people. So I'm very proud to be from there.
Nice. Collegiate athlete as well. I did not know that.
Yes.
So awesome.
Full surprises.
Yeah, I like this, Malcolm. So Westpoint, I was recruited to play softball there. And I felt, I was stoked. The U.S. Naval Academy did not have a collegiate softball team. It was like a club sport, which I was like, no, I'm not playing club. I want to play the league. And so I did go visit, and it was a complete, I'm from a small town near Seattle, and went to Westpoint in the middle of the winter and froze my ass off and watched the Westpoint team play softball and practice outdoors. And I was like, yeah, we'll think about this. But the military culture was, I mean, it wasn't necessarily the softball. It was like the military culture was just a huge shift in what, I mean, obviously when anyone's experienced. So between Westpoint, I mean, it didn't dissuade me from going. However, I looked at Villanova and other programs with ROTC units to see if that would be a fit too. And I felt like the ability to party and
Have a life.
Have a life.
Yeah.
Might fit me a little bit better. No, I actually was not a big partier because I did ROTC and collegiate softball at Villanova, but Westpoint was a remarkably beautiful school, well run. And I think actually the deciding factor for me was in my high school brain was, well, engineering isn't really for me. I want to do something with liberal arts and public affairs and write. So it was like, well, Villanova, okay. And the fact that maybe a little bit warmer down in Pennsylvania and freedom, a little more freedom. So, all right, from Westpoint, from Torrance, went to Westpoint, soccer player. Last bit of really important information I want to tell everyone. Well, there's a lot of information I missed, and I'm sure, about your life, but you are also married to a major general in the Army.
Yes, she just retired. She retired a year ago. Yeah, she retired first director of cyber in the United States Army, and retired as a 2-star general after 31 years.
So, I want to know what dinner conversations are like. You guys talk about?
You should ask my daughter. Our
Okay.
daughter. Our poor only child daughter with 2 generals as parents.
Yeah. What's your daughter's name?
Alexis.
Alexis. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
I would like to ask her that sometime. That's awesome. So for those of you listening, like, to being a woman in the military, I served for 4 years, to be able to make, and I was telling Malcolm this before the show, my goal when I first got in was, I want to make general officer as well. Like, the Marine Corps was my home. Things did not, for people that know my story, that didn't work out for me. However, I am really thankful for the service the time I did get to be in, and the strong women I met. But to be able to make it to that rank, just in the service alone, man or woman, but especially the fact that, I mean, she's been in probably as long as you, and the times have changed considerably for women in our country. And it wasn't probably easy back when she first started, but just to make that rank, like, I'm sure there's a lot of ups and downs and adversity and things that she experienced that just a lot of people will never fathom.
So just as an example, as a brand new second lieutenant, which is the first rank outside of after you graduate and become a commissioned officer, she was stationed on the Fulda Gap in Germany. She was there when the Berlin Wall went down, and she was the only female ground surveillance radar in the Fulda Gap. She was the only female platoon leader with the 11th ACR Armored Cavalry Regiment, which was holding the line on the Fulda Gap, and she was the only female that was in that unit. Just to give you an example, and was there when the wall came down. So that was, so if you think about that, all the way to commanding troops in Iraq, only a couple of female battalion commanders that commanded troops in combat for the 25th Infantry Division in Hawaii, and then her continued service into cyber. So she's had some unique experiences as well over 31 years.
She'll be on next. We'll have her on next. All right, Malcolm, did I miss anything that you'd like to tell everyone about just an intro about yourself?
Oh my gosh.
You're drinking pina coladas now, hanging out. Where are you living?
No, I'm a bourbon guy, so pina coladas, but definitely a bourbon and a cigar now and then. No, so we're in Northern Virginia, so and that's where I'm settling in here. So just looking forward to what is next in the civilian sector. So next opportunities and challenges. I'm kind of really excited about it, to be frank. So now anything else I think will come out as we continue to talk. Okay,
awesome. So here's the icebreaker.
All right.
Even though we got into some fun conversation in the intro. So I know as an officer, even in my 4 short years, I had some pretty fun and young enlisted that I got to work with. So I'd like to know just a fun, quick story about a young enlisted you worked with. Maybe in your junior officer days. It could be a junior officer too, since you've been in for quite a while. Like, is there any specifically interesting story? And I can lead if you want, because I actually have one that from a young enlisted that I was like, wow, this guy is a real interesting guy. If he ever went to the civilian sector, maybe.
Yeah. So I have to be careful because I have to be.
Sure.
because I'm an infantryman back in the day, and so there's a lot of infantry stories, and so you have to be very, very careful and cautious. No, I mean there are so many phenomenal enlisted soldiers that I served with. From a junior enlisted standpoint, one that kind of pops out to me was a guy named Specialist Reeb, and he was my radio telephone operator when I was a company commander. We went into Bosnia on December 18th, 1995, after the signing of the Dayton Peace Accords. We were the first unit on the ground, and he's just he was a bigger guy, and so this was an elite airborne unit in Vicenza, Italy, and we were the ones that went in after that happened back in 1995. And what's unique about him was in the airborne kind of Ranger Mafia, in the airborne unit, you have to be able to run. There was just one of the gut check things. Could you run? Were you a fast runner? Well, Reed was this like mountain of a kid, right? And he was just a big kid. I mean, some would call him probably maybe a little bit fat or overweight, but he was not. I mean, and he couldn't run as fast as us, but I'm telling you what, the guy, you could put like 100 pounds of stuff on his back, and then I could jump on it too, and he could just go and go and go. And he was just a phenomenal personality, great attitude, was smart as a whip. I mean, he could almost, command the unit like I could. He could read my mind, and he was just a great kid. I say kid, he's a grown man, but at that time, you kind of felt that way. But just was one of those individuals that really helped me be able to command that unit. Be successful. Just a super smart junior enlisted who got over some of the stigmas of being an airborne, not being able to run, with some other facets that he had, some capabilities he had that others didn't have, and he put those tools to use and was a great asset to the organization. So he comes immediately to mind. And he had some other, I'll just say some other quirky things. I'll just leave it at tattoos and piercings, and I'll leave it there. And won't go too far into those. Yeah. But he had some interesting, I'll just say proclivities for way before his time when it came to, like, nowadays it's taken for granted. Back then you had to hide it in very unique places, and he loved to should I say show off or brandish those things that he had done to his body. I'll just leave it at that without going too far into it. I get it. There's some characters. He sounds like an awesome guy. Thank you for sharing that. One that comes to mind for me was my first gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, who is kind of like the Kevin Hart. He's like Kevin Hart. He's just short, black man, African American, who gave me every day, come up to my office and give me the laydown of what's going on with the Marines. And he would always, call me my man. Like when he would talk to others, he's like, well, my ma'am does this, and my ma'am does that. And my ma'am could be your ma'am up. So to this day, he keeps in touch with me, and occasionally he'll follow me on what I'm doing on Facebook, and just like has always been a cheerleader for me, and helped me as a junior officer do well with my Marines. So he took ownership. He took ownership of you as a leader, and that's great. And he mentored you and brought you along, which is phenomenal. Yeah. And I have a very similar experience with my first platoon sergeant, Gunny, so to speak. Sergeant First Class Nicholson, Vietnam veteran, and just was a guy that knew more than had more knowledge in his pinky than I had in my entire body. And what he taught me over the first 18 months was unbelievable. He was a little bit broken down. He was 173rd Airborne in Vietnam, again, a Vietnam veteran, wasn't in the best physical condition. And for me, I thought, well, that's a little bit of weakness. And first time we went to the field, and we had this objective we had to take, and he was in charge of the supporting element, the support by fire element that had the machine guns, the pigs that were supposed to rain down the fire so that we could, walk onto the objective. It was decimated, and I was part of the assault force. And, we're getting there, and I'm briefing the plan. I'm the platoon leader briefing the plan. And I'm like, and Sergeant First goes, I need you to be here at this time. I was like, sir, I got it. I'm like, but I need you. I got it. Sir, I got it. And I'm like, okay, Sergeant Nick, okay, great. And so we execute the mission. I give the signal for the support by fire to open up. And he had gotten those through his Vietnam experience. And this is at Fort Carson, Colorado. He had gotten those individuals, the M60 crew and that supporting squad. He had got them closer to the objective than I was as part of the assaulting force. And he opens up. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, he got within like 20 meters of them. and just ripped it apart. And we just walked across it. And he's like, "Yes, sir. I told you." I'm like, "Yeah, you did."
Yeah.
You did. I mean, but he just had tactical knowledge,
Yeah.
and he had a way of moving through the woods that nobody else had, and he had just a sense and an acumen about him that and that was my wake up call. Hey, you need to listen and watch this guy. It's not
Oh yeah.
Don't judge a book by the cover.
Yep.
What's underneath that package was incredible. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good lesson for all junior officers in general. Look at, like, I didn't know the first thing about engineering. I mean, I did my engineering school. That's what my MOS was. I was a 1302. However, like actual field training in my Marines, what my Marines capabilities were, like he knew all that. And he really, so I was a softball player, and so my best friend was a catcher on our team in college. She saw everything on the field, and she helped me be successful as a pitcher. She made me feel, oh, like that's exactly what he did for my platoon, for me and my platoon. Like I had to bring some humility to it. The fact that, hey, I need help. Like, show me, I want to be part of this, versus, hey, everyone, listen to me. I know exactly what I'm doing because I just got out of college. It was really nice to build a friendship with him. And again, we were like polar opposites. I'm 6'1", big white lady. He's like short African-American man, doesn't work out, smokes like a chimney, still can crush his PFT. First time I took him through a workout, he couldn't sit for a week. That it wasn't necessarily my intent, but he's like, "Okay, ma'am, I got you. Like, I'm gonna stop smoking. I think. Like, I think I need to stop smoking to be able to be successful in your workouts." I was like, "That's a good idea. Yeah, that'd be good for your long-term health." Anyway, so all right, thank you for that. Let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of this thing. So, this My New Normal, the focus of this is, we have very, very successful people on here you would never know the adversity it takes to get to where you are. And or people who have been severely injured and who are thriving in life. And people look at them like, how do you do that? You're in a wheelchair, or you have a missing limb, or you were in the 9/11 attacks. How do you get through your days and not live with depression and thrive? And so for you, the thing I want to focus on is, is there a new normal? I know there's probably many, because we can have a new normal every day, but
Sure.
Is there an experience in your life as an officer or a family man, or in your life outside of the military, where something happened and it caused a major shift in your life, a transformation?
Sure.
It could be a job change, an injury, a loss, a gain, whatever.
Well, there's a couple I would talk about. So first off, let me just begin by saying I believe that one of the ways that you get through this and find the new normal is that understand that every day is a new normal. Normal is not stasis.
Mm-hmm.
Change is normal. And if you embrace the fact that change every day is normal, and if you're trying to strive to improve every single day and be better, then you don't get stuck in a rut. And too many people get stuck in those ruts, whatever they are, emotional, physical, psychological ruts, and everything from your workplace to your personal life, et cetera. If you aren't constantly trying to change, the world changes every day. The environment changes every day. Why aren't you changing every single day? And so for me, what I would say is I've had 9 surgeries. So everything from 3 ankle reconstructions, a couple of calf fasciotomies, shoulder surgery, back surgery, a couple other things, knee scope. And so injuries for me have always have plagued me throughout my sports career, but not just that, but my life. And I think what you just have to do is understand that, when that happens, it's a shock. It's a shock to the system, and I get it. But what I try and do is understand that there was a problem. That's why you were injured in the first place. Something was wrong. There was a weakness. There was something going on there that you couldn't accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. And so take this as an opportunity to get better, to rehabilitate, and then and I think it helps to build mental resiliency, and then it helps you with the fitness side. And so for me, I had to modify some of the things I could do physically. I had to understand the impact on my job performance with those injuries, and not just to the job, but to my body itself, how I had to adjust my physical fitness regime, how I had to, how I had to lead sometimes. All of those were just significant changes. I mean, we're talking major, surgery for each one.
Yeah.
And so how do you adjust to that? and then get back quickly, get back stronger, and attack the rehabilitation. And I think that for me was the way in which I understood that this was just a part of me changing. And quite frankly, while it's an injury and while I'm not as well off physically as I could have been, that doesn't mean that you can't take it and move forward and make it even better. So that's one major thing that happened to me. I would say another was the first time in my life that I was never selected for something that I went out for, that I tried for in the military. I won't get too much detail about it, except that I will tell you, when I went to try and get selected by this elite organization in the United States Army, there were a series of circumstances that happened that were mostly not to do with me. A couple of them I probably could have handled better. But sometimes life just throws curveballs at you. And no matter what you do and how hard you try and how good you are at something, what you're trying to achieve or get selected for or want is not going to happen. And I was personally devastated. And I learned it as a junior officer. I'd only been in the Army about 7 or 8 years. And, and what I did is I had a pretty knee-jerk reaction, got emotional, got really upset, got very, very angry. And then I drove, I was on Fort Benning, Georgia, and I said, well, I'm going to drive to Building 4, which is the huge infantry building. And I said, you know what, I'm going to pick up the phone. And this is where relationships come in, and understanding how to communicate and understanding how you react to things. And I said, I'm going to call one of my old bosses who's in the old guard, the 3rd U.S. Infantry, the ones that execute the memorial affairs, the burials at Arlington National Cemetery, and do the joint ceremonies that you see on TV. And there was an opportunity to command in an organization there. And I picked up the phone, I called him because I had applied for that as well. And he said, hey, you're not going to believe it. 2 days ago, we just had a captain that was selected to be the aide de camp, and we have a command that's opening. And he goes, and if you get here in the next 10 days, you'll get that command, because the guy that's taking another command will have to take that one and will not take this line command. Mm-hmm. And so what I found out, what that hit me, very squarely in the face is that making that phone call, trying to reach out, trying to react appropriately instead of in such an angry, frustrated manner. I mean, I went through my mind, oh, I'm going to quit, screw the Army. I'm done with this. I can't believe I got railroaded. It's BS. All of that went through my mind. And I said, okay, be a little bit better than this. And I made that phone call, mm-hmm. and this entire door opened up that I never would have anticipated. Oh, by the way, what came from that? So when a door closes, another door opens, and sometimes it's a phenomenal door. So what happened is I got a second command. Because of that second command, I was selected early for major. And because of that, I was selected to be the aide de camp to the chief of staff of the Army, 4-star general as a captain. And I learned things in that job that I still haven't realized I've learned even today, 20 years later. That's how deep the learning was in that job for 18 months. And oh, by the way, then I met my wife in the Pentagon, that beautiful romantic place, the Pentagon. and so what happens is because a door got shut, my entire career path was changed. I would not be where I'm sitting today if it were not for that, both family-wise and career-wise, by not being selected for that. And so I have always said that not being selected was probably the biggest blessing that happened. And how you react to that, my initial reaction was not good. But that initial reaction, studying that reaction, and then what I did afterwards has taught me that when something bad happens, that is just an opportunity for something else great to occur. And how is your attitude, and how do you take that and attack that? And it's unbelievable what happens. And I think it's just all about attitude. And that's what I would share.
So so the first one, thank you for that, because those open up a lot of good discussion here. Because these, in my own life, coming from the Marine Corps to now being a civilian, always a Marine, but working in the civilian world, it's different. And running my own business and running my business with my husband, I mean, there's a lot of parallels there. And what I want to start with, though, is the fact that, I mean, you had 9 major surgeries, and that's not uncommon, for the population that listens to this and the population I work with. And the thing is, in our society, we're so good at emergency medicine. That's when I know when I went to PT school and looked at becoming a medical, before I went to PT school and was looking at the medical industry, I looked at how reactive our medical industry is and realized, like, people only go seek help when they're in pain. And they also look at one of the things, and I decided to become a PT, obviously, and work in the strength and conditioning environment. So very preventative focused work. But people still come to me, and a lot of times it's their last straw because they're like, I've been injured so much. I've had so many surgeries. This doctor told me I can't squat anymore, or I shouldn't be running. And they feel like their life is over. And they've literally limited their life because some doctor has told them to stop doing what they love, or some health professional or someone in their life, doesn't even have to be a health professional. Dr. Google said, don't do this. Or they just, because they're in pain, like that is such an enormous threat that it limits their life. I mean, it limits what they choose to do in their life, like their ability to play with their kids, the choices they make, the food they eat. And so I found, when I first got into the PT world, I was like, wow, I don't want to be on this reactive side. I want to show people that this injury is a great opportunity to learn about your body. Mm-hmm. And you obviously had an injury for a reason. Most of the injuries are preventable because people just move poorly or too much loading, overtraining, not knowing. Some are not, some are traumatic. Being in the Army, some are traumatic, yeah. And but how can we use this injury, this surgery, as a way to learn and become even better? And having a knee surgery, or you had a fasciotomy in your calf, yeah?
Bilateral, both.
Bilateral. Yikes. So yeah, you're going to have to learn about ankle mobility and soft tissue mobility, and you're probably going to have to do that mobility every day to make change in the tissue. If you don't do it every day, well, what's going to happen? You're probably going to get injured again. So learning, when you get an injury, it's a tool to start becoming healthier. It's like a message to your body saying, all right, you need to be healthier. Like, this isn't okay. Versus saying, oh, screw it, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. No more sports.
So I like treating doctors like I do lawyers. So I have a staff judge advocate, right? A judge advocate general.
Yeah.
So my judge advocate general, when they come in for counseling, the first time I talk to them, they're on my staff. I said, listen, there's one word that will never come out of your mouth, and that is no. I said, you do not tell me no. You tell me how we can get something done.
Right.
Or or if what I want to get done, here's the intent for what we want to get done. You have to help tell me the right legal way to get it done. You don't tell me, no, we can't do something. There's always a way to do things. It's the same thing medically. I won't allow a doctor to tell me, no, you can't. I'm like, no, doc, that's not your job. Your job is to help get me to success, to be able to do what I want to do. And how do we do that? And, but I also think though, that there's personal ownership as well.
Sure.
And you cannot expect a doctor to just fix everything and make it yes. You have to do it yourself. You have to understand how to manage your pain. You have to work every single day. Your body and your mind, I think, adapt to the environment that is your capability to do something or not do something. And it will overcome pain. It will overcome inability to do something, and you will naturally be able to do more because you physically do it every day. And when an injury does happen, you bounce back faster. Your body's adapted better to it, and you just have to make those changes and move forward. I mean, if you're out of shape, if you're not taking care of your body and you get hurt, guess what? You got a long, tough road ahead, and your body has no idea what to do because you haven't conditioned it to be prepared for it, much less your mind.
Right. Oh yeah. So performing the reps, and I being a doctor of physical therapy and working with, I don't actually work closely with a lot of medical doctors because I'm on the performance side of things, but I do my best to educate people, my patients, when they do go see their doctor, things to say. But I know that my patients, or anyone that comes to me, they're going to train anyway, even though they're injured, or like a lot of people I see, they're in pain, but they're training anyway. But they want to know how to get out of pain. And their doctor has told them one thing, which scares them and has limited some of them. But a lot of them, it's just like, well, I'm just going to fight through it. And for me, and a lot of times their doctor, because I work in people who do Spartan races, CrossFit, highly competitive athletes, their doctor might say, you shouldn't be squatting heavy, or you shouldn't be deadlifting, or you shouldn't be, doing this CrossFit thing. Well, the truth is it's a movement. it's movement. And how are
Yeah.
you doing that movement? So, I mean, I've been told by my nurse practitioner from the VA, you should probably never squat again. And my answer to her was, well, I got to go to the toilet, so I'm going to probably have to squat. And if I'm going to squat, it better be good, right? And she was like, well, you know what I mean, with like weight on your back. And I was like, so you mean I can't squat my my 35-pound kid? Like, I'm going to have to pick him off the ground. Like, I'm going to have to do it anyway, lady or man, whoever it is. Like, I might as well do it well. So there's no excuse to use an injury as to stop doing something. And I really like educating people on that, because one, it's just empowering to say it. But I think even for the person like yourself who's been injured multiple times, to believe that, all right, this is just an opportunity to learn and even get better and stronger and more mobile.
And you adapt, you know. I mean, there are some trade-offs, right? There's some things that I can't do as much as I maybe would have wanted to do, and you have to understand and listen to your body and know that sometimes there are some limitations. That's okay. Just adapt and do other things. And so, you know, I right now, for instance, because of the compartment syndrome I had in both of my calves, which is probably somewhat due to the 3 ankle reconstructions, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it just rolls on. I mean, it rolls all the way up from my ankles, all the way up to my back and my shoulders now, but that's okay. But the point is that maybe now I can't go out and run a marathon. Okay, that's fine. But I do know what I can do cardiovascularly, both in running and in other ways, to make sure that I get the training that I want to get, and that's okay. So you just, again, you have to understand what it is you can do. You adapt, and then you find other things, and you know, and I have found other loves with fitness now as well, beyond just I mean, I like to run, I just can't do it as much. That's okay.
Right. So you figure it out. That is, so in the adaptive world, instead of we don't call them disabled athletes, we like to call them adaptive, those that have had permanent injuries. So technically, with all your injuries, right, there is a lot of adaptation that has to happen.
Oh yeah.
Someone who's in a wheelchair, you know, with a spinal cord injury, like they can still squat, hinge, push, pull, and carry. It's just is going to look different now. Yeah. Like their squat's going to be with their arms. They're going to do a dip. They're raising and lowering their center of mass. They're not using their legs, but they can't use their legs, so they got to use their arms. But that dip motion is really important for their quality of life, right? Like someone with a missing leg, they can still squat. It's just going to look a little bit different. They're going to have to shift their weight a little bit. And that's, I think, the resilient, when you start to realize there's always a way. Like you just have to shift. That makes you a more resilient human. And the more reps that you say, don't allow, you know, say no to the people you don't want to hang out with and say yes to the opportunities of getting stronger, fitter, faster, and more mobile. And that builds resilience.
Yeah. And I think you have to every single day you have to practice that, you know, so you have to push boundaries. You have to understand your body. You have to listen to your body. You have to try new things. You have to be open, because if you're not, when something does happen that might be catastrophic or might be something that debilitates you for a period of time only, I think it allows you to mentally be more prepared and be resilient to be able to handle that. So it's something you should practice every single day. Listen to your body, understand your body's limitations, understand what it can do, try new things, and you'll learn more about your weaknesses and your strengths. Quite frankly, that's a little bit of why we drove to the Army Combat Fitness Test, because you know, not to segue here, but the bottom line is we had an Army at the scope and scale of 1.1 million that was training for the PT test, and that was just cardiovascular endurance and muscular endurance, and it wasn't based off of the physical requirements necessary, components of fitness that are necessary for a soldier to do their job in a high threat or combat environment. And so that's why we looked at the basic skills every soldier must execute, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. And then we regressed that back through the lens of those 10 components of fitness, and then built a test that tested those 10 components of fitness that included, as you said, muscular strength, explosive power, speed, agility, explosive power, reaction time, flexibility, balance, also with the cardiovascular and muscular endurance side. And then we built something that could quite frankly be done in an hour with 130 soldiers, so that it could be done at the scope and scale of 1.1 million. You know, you can create any test. That you could create a test over 2 days for an individual that is a phenomenal predictor. But how do you do that across 1 million people at scale? That that took years to kind of refine and figure out. And then just the front end, then having to test how you were able to do this. And then there's the resourcing cost as well. So anyway, the point though is that we had an Army that was training with falsely thinking that they were fit, was training towards a test, and neglected the weaknesses physically that was causing all the musculoskeletal injuries, the medical problems that they were seeing in that reactive environment you talked about, not in a proactive environment, because we didn't have the right professionals down at the tactical level, which are necessary, the physical therapists like you, occupational therapists, registered dietitians, strength and conditioning coaches. So all of those are new initiatives so that we can properly train for the rigors of what our occupation is, and then proactively, preventively build programs and prevent that injury, and then get stuff at the point of injury quicker, so that we're not being just seen in a centralized medical treatment facility by a doctor that tells you no.
Right. I like, sir. So did you, sir? See, there I go. I got really motivated there. Yeah, the H2F thing is incredible, and I want to ask though was your experience with all of these injuries and learnings from it a huge motivation to create this shift? Because it takes leadership to really do it. Like, you have to get it. And not a lot of leaders do. I mean, I work with companies, I work with military units. It's only the companies and the units where their leadership gets it. And they get the proactive approach, which a lot don't.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is we actually had this in our doctrine. We actually had it there for years. It said, this is how you're supposed to train.
Yeah.
And the leadership in the Army just didn't plug into it, and culturally we hadn't forced a change. And so what we've done is we use this fitness test as a way to change the culture of fitness, because people will train for the test. If they train for this test, fantastic, they're doing everything we want them to do. Instead of the old test, right? And which neglected the posterior, your back, your core, the posterior of your body. So one thing was force the change culturally through the fitness test, and then recognize that was the path to holistic health and fitness. And it took the right leadership aligned. It wasn't just me, it wasn't just my idea. There's a lot of leaders below me, and there were those that were aligned above me that got it. And so we were very fortunate to have kind of the stars, literally and figuratively, aligned from the Secretary of the Army to the Chief of Staff of the Army to the training doctrine commander, my boss, me, and then the folks below me. And so, but you have to strike, you have to understand the environment, and you have to know when leaders are in the right place. And this is a leadership piece, right? You have to understand that know the environment. You can try and push any idea you want, but it may not have traction. You have to understand timing. You have to understand the leaders that are there and the environment, and then strike while the iron's hot, and then work those stakeholders, external stakeholders, because there were a lot of antibodies, a lot of people fighting against this. And so you have to shape those, you have to influence them, you have to demonstrate them, you have to have rock solid logic and science and research behind it. And then you have to be able to translate and communicate it to those folks, and then understand that they need, that there's a resourcing aspect that they quite frankly want. And then you have to lower the anxiety by explaining to them all the aspects of this. So there was a lot of I'll call fiefdoms and antibodies and stovepipes of neglect, or don't think it's going to happen. I still heard the other day, I hear it's not going to occur. I laugh, because this is what we like to say is, hey, the Army Combat Fitness Test is coming, and there ain't nothing you can do to change it. So you better get on board, right? So but the point was that there was a lot of things that went into this being able to occur. It wasn't just me, but it did take me, a lot of others, to be able to have the vision to push this through. And I think it's going to be fantastic for our Army, quite frankly, and not just that, but for our nation and for taxpayers. It'll save a lot of money, those injuries.
Well, I thank you. And thank you for being a leader of other leaders too. I mean, just looking at the corporate world, business leaders need to take that same mentality, because if they want a healthy employer, if they want healthy employees, team members, they got to also seek health themselves and create that opportunity, because a lot of the employees and team members aren't going to do it for themselves, left to their own devices. So I've taken, I really, really admire you, the team, the persistence, because I know that I'm hoping our Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force will follow in suit to change their PFTs as well.
Well, what I would tell the other services is that the Chief of Staff of the Army, that along with the Secretary of the Army that approved this, is going to be the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So you might want to get a little bit of a wake-up call, that of what his focus is. And what this has been for me and for our Army has been a huge exercise in enterprise-level change management. That is huge. Changing a culture on this magnitude, what it takes to do that over the last 2 years. It's been 2 years we've been working at this. Just once we got everything set, research and science done. This has been 2 years of just building the plan, influencing stakeholders, building the change in, and resourcing this. That in and of itself, we've had the research done on the physical fitness test. All the studies have been done, but how do you change an enterprise of 1.1 million people? And the culture, that it was a significant, I'll just say exercise.
Well, I can only imagine, Malcolm, and the military too, just, it's a different animal.
Yes.
So I commend you for not giving up on it, and providing the education, because I saw some of the research out there that you all did, and it's amazing. And I'm excited to be a part of it in the ways I can. The other thing you mentioned is what I really liked too was just when things don't go your way, which is so common. I mean, I feel like if I look back in just the last 3 years of my life, it seems like every month there's something that doesn't go my way. Sometimes it's really significant, sometimes it's not. And it's really how I react to it. And I've learned just over the course of time and building my own emotional intelligence about things, because as a young officer, even as a collegiate athlete, I would throw tantrums. I remember in college, if I lost a game or I didn't get a hit, right? I was that girl in the dugout that was throwing a bat, throwing her helmet, until I got kind of slapped across the face a time or two from teammates of mine, basically saying, grow up. To where, okay, look at my actions, look what I'm doing. And, but building my own emotional intelligence over the years, and now being a business owner, it's there's so many times that I felt like I've just failed. But when I re-look at that experience, that's an opportunity for growth. And that opportunity has led me to meet some really amazing people. And those relationships come 2-3 years later. Now there's other opportunities with them, or that person that situation happened with, they're now thriving in what they're doing, and we can now focus in what we're doing. Whatever it is, it's there's always a blessing, there's always a light. And instead of looking at and telling yourself the stories of you're not good enough or it's never going to happen again, and using that past to dictate your present and future, just look at the facts of what happened, complete facts without any emotion, and then say, okay, what can I learn from the facts? And then look at the people in your life to create other opportunities. So
in the Army, and same thing with the Marine Corps, it's pretty simple. We call it doing after action review. So what did I intend to happen? What really happened? What needs to change? What do I sustain? And what do I improve? It's just that easy. It really is. It's easy, but it's not. But it's understanding and just stepping out of the emotions and saying, what did I intend to happen? And then what actually happened? Why was that different? What was the disconnect between what I intended and what happened? What do I need to sustain that was good out of what occurred? And what do I need to improve on so it doesn't happen again? And then change. It's just that simple. And you have to, we do that at an organizational level incredibly well. I mean, no one scrutinizes ourselves more than the United States Army and the military, quite frankly, which I think is one of the things that makes us the best military on earth. But it's something you can apply to your personal life every single day.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's doing that has helped me build emotional intelligence. And when I go into conversations, so more personally, honestly, because my personal life and professional life, as much as I like to say they're separate, they're not. I mean, I work with my husband. We do work that we really love. I want my son to see the work I do. My son is 2, right? He's a big part of our life, our work, our time. And so the way I react to things at work, or be proactive, reactive, proact, will affect me in the way I'm at home.
Right.
And so I really, really do like that, and believe that, you know, when the people that I've interviewed on this podcast, a lot of them that have had like serious injuries, a lot of them, it was in the moments of their injuries. Like one guy was in a motorcycle accident during Hurricane Katrina. And when he was out helping with the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and he didn't have time to react to his injury because of all the devastation around him.
Mm-hmm.
He basically just he was able to accept it and say, all right, what can I do now? Like I learned, okay, I shouldn't speed on my motorcycle, but I still want to be on a motorcycle, right? And this situation, actually, he couldn't really control, but he's like, okay, so this happened to me. My life is different now, but how can I do the things I want to do? How can I still do the things I want to do and more? And also still help people, because I can still help people. And so he took like a situation where people, I mean, I've been part of, spinal cord support groups and other like injury support groups where some of the individuals have been really down and out. Like they just can't, it's new normal, like they can't accept it. And no matter what, they're going to wheel the rest of their life, but you can still have an amazing life.
Yep.
So it's being able to learn. Yeah.
So I kind of, so I framed this out, I kind of thought about this a little bit and frame it out. And I like to put things in groups of threes.
Yes.
Just because it's easy. Yeah. And it's easy to remember. So when you have that type of adversity, whether it's a career change, a job change, injury, or something catastrophic, I kind of put it into what I call the 3 Ps. So the first is personal. And what does that mean? So personally, what do you need to do? I think what it means is you need to rely on your anchors, whatever those anchors are in your life. It could be, it could be a routine that you have. It could be family. It could be friends. It could be, continue to do something that you love. I mean, what are the things that anchor you and who you are, morally, your values, what the things that you value the most in life. And so what are those things? Just rely on those anchors and those things that help support you, prop you up, or help fulfill you. Right. And then you got to hunt the good stuff. We talked about that. What do you, out of what happened, what is the good, what can I take positively, hunt that out and just continue to manifest and reflect that going in the future. And then the relationships and the networks you have, which kind of gets to the people aspect. You have to rely on those relationships and the networks that you have to help you, whether it's with that thing that happened or if it's not, right? It's something you just need to rely on for that, for the moral, the moral bump or the attitude bump or the slap in the face, as you call it. Or is it somebody who you're going to rely on that's going to help you, extend that network to their network, which helps you overcome the problem. So that's the first P. The second P, I think, is plan. You have to plan. It just doesn't happen willy-nilly.
Yeah. No.
And I like to say, you have to create discipline in your life, and that happens through negative and positive reinforcement. So you create discipline. Discipline over time becomes habit, and then habit over time, I think, turns into, it's really part of your, not really metaphysically, but it becomes your DNA. I mean, you don't even think. I mean, habit is you don't think, but DNA, it's like another level. And so how do you create that in your life, number one? And then attacking those problems, I said it head on, vigorously, and developing a plan and a checklist. If that checklist just means do these 2 things tomorrow, then you do that. It doesn't have to be a year from now. If you can, and that you feel good about that, and you want those goals, plan it out there, put it on a calendar, and then back it all the way up and start to plan this week, this month, this quarter, and this year, and that will help you hold yourself. And again, for some folks, depending on what happened to them, they're just trying to get through today. Okay, what are the 2 things you need to do today? And then tomorrow you wake up, what are the things I need to do? I mean, but plan it, put it in a checklist. And then the last P is perspective. I think perspective is huge. And to maintain perspective, it's so easy to get caught up in everything that's happening and the change that's occurred in your life and the tragedy or the adversity or what have you. You have to back off from it all. And if you don't plan in some time to have fun, whatever it is that you call fun, time for yourself to just think and be by yourself, not in the fury and the fervor of the moment and whatever's occurring out there. And then that allows you time to think. So time for yourself to do what you want to do that's just for you, time to think, and then time to have fun, whatever it is that's fun. It may be by yourself, it may be with others. If you don't carve that out every single day, or excuse me, over time, even in your life routinely, much less in adversity, then you're going to really, really find yourself crushed over time. And it's just the time to get away and refresh and kind of rehabilitate your mind and your body so you can come back in and get after whatever it was in that plan, and relying on those personal anchors and relationships and the good stuff that you want to move forward. So those are my 3 Ps: personal, plan, and perspective.
I like those, Malcolm, and I'm going to actually make a list of those and put it in the, and you sent me a list of them. I'm going to put them in the show notes so people can take those with them. I actually think this leads into my last topic that I want to talk about is just the healthcare world in general. And on the corporate side of the game, the house, because we do work in that field as well. And I think that that perspective of taking, for the leaders of the world and even the team members, being able to take those 3 Ps, because that's what behavior change is. You just explained what behavior change looks like how to create it. And there's a lot of science behind behavior change and what to do and how often to do it. But it really comes down to simple things like repetition, daily repetition, planning, putting it on paper, giving yourself creative time and space to think. And so in our line of work, and actually what you're doing with H2F is you're creating healthcare at the front lines. At the front lines of healthcare is at work. What's the soldier doing every day to keep their mind, spirit, and body ready? What is a team member or employee doing every day? And it shouldn't just be their healthcare is the one checkup they do a year, or the gym they go to at the end of the day and they walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes. It should be something that the employer takes ownership of, and the person, right, to say, okay, I want to provide this structure for my team members, because if I give them opportunities to make the appropriate reps, and I give them a plan where they're going to succeed and give them options to succeed within that plan, then I'm creating health in my work. That's
a healthier employee is a happier employee, is an employee that's going to work harder for you. It's going to be more committed to you, and you're going to get more productivity over time. Right. You may not see that in the cost that hits you up front, but this is the long game.
Right. Yeah.
It's not the short game. And that's the problem is, and so,
right.
And quite frankly, especially when you have such transient workforces out there, this is a way to help maintain that experience level in a workforce that's probably less transient. And quite frankly, is going to be more committed to you, your team, and your organization.
Well, so we always tie it back to employer satisfaction, because companies, they want to know, they don't want to lose people. That's costs. Right. And they ultimately know that an employee satisfaction is going to help them stay healthier as a workforce and retain people. And so they're not going to lose money. It's always a bottom line. However, a leader that cares about their own health is typically the data shows that most leaders of companies don't really know what to do with wellness data. They're just okay, cool, people are doing programs, great. What are they going to do with that? Where we tie it in is, well, now that your employees feel better, that they're feeling taken care of, you're going to retain them and you're going to save money. But it's also this altruistic look at, hey, you're also really helping people be more functional humans. So when they go home at night to their families, you're helping save a family too, not just the employee.
Yeah. I mean, so you almost need to look at it in reverse. The organization is a family itself. You actually probably spend more time at work than you do with your family. Sometimes, a lot of folks. Yeah. And so if you have that attitude, you're right. It makes life at home with their true family better. It also provides it's a better sense of community. I think it's a commitment to the community writ large. So there's a lot of other benefits to it. And I think you do see some organizations are thinking this way and are making those changes. Yeah. Others are not. But I think that's the way ahead in my mind.
Yes. Well, we are in the work we do. That's the big message with corporate wellness is, we're bringing in strength and conditioning based programs. So to help strengthen the lower back, which of course isn't just about the lower back, the shoulder, the knee, those are loaded words because people are oh yeah, workers' comp claims show that depression and lower back issues are a big problem. Well, okay, we're teaching people how to breathe a little bit deeper, squat better, hinge over, perform a really good push-up. it's really powerful when people do the work and when the leadership buys in. We've seen the culture shift in companies that are extremely sedentary. So we're excited to see more of that shift, and all the more excitement too now that the Army, thanks to you and your team, is like created this H2F.
Well, and so, I'm kind of a case in point, walk into a C-suite and telling them, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. This is why we're doing it. And here's the benefits of it. I mean, I think it's easy to translate when you look at, we're the second biggest company in the United States behind Walmart, people wise. So if we can make that size of that big of a change culturally, then just about every other organization can as well. It can be done.
It can be done. Well, I really appreciate your time, Malcolm. And before we end, so your 3 Ps made me bring up my 3 Ps.
Okay.
I thought of 3 Ps too. I was like, this is
don't confuse the audience now. Come on.
I'm not.
2 sets of 3 Ps.
Yeah, this is a different one. This is pain, proprioception, performance, which you'd appreciate as a nerd. I'd like to call you a nerd too, because you are very knowledgeable about health and fitness and the things it takes to train to have a healthy body. But I like when I talk to people about, pain and performance aren't too far, treating both. They're both the same, actually. Like when someone's in pain for their knee or low back, well, I'm going to teach them how to move better, regardless if they're in pain or not. Pain just is a signal saying there's a threat. So I'm going to teach you how to move better. But even if you weren't moving better, I'd want to teach you how to move better and help improve your performance. So I've found that in my practice, when I explain stuff to people how we work, I take you from pain, improve proprioception with mobility work, soft tissue work, teaching you how to mobilize your own body, which are great recovery techniques, to moving better in the primal movement patterns. And therefore that will make you more efficient when you train. And here's a program to help you train that includes squatting, hinging, pushing, pulling, carrying. So those are my 3 Ps. Just a little nerd alert.
Trying to up me, but the whole proprioception thing is going to get like most of your lay audience.
Right. I don't expect, well, you never know. I think proprioception is a really fun concept to get into with people, because it's a level of awareness of where you are in space.
I get it. I was teasing. I mean, it makes sense to me. It makes sense totally. Yeah.
But people do kind of look at you cross-eyed, like, okay, Teresa, that sounds good. So we'll put those 3 Ps in the show notes too, but we'll make sure Malcolm's come first.
No, like non-geeks and geeks.
Yeah.
No,
I would say you're a nerd, Malcolm.
All right.
In a good way. There's a group of us, a regiment of us out there in the United States, and I've seemed to gravitate towards those. Where I have an awkward sense of humor. I'm not too awkward to hang out with, but on these kind of things, there is anyway. Okay. I very much appreciate your time and energy, and we just scratched the surface on things, but with the audience that we have, both from the adaptive community to the leaders of companies, to coaches, trainers who work with adaptive athletes, or who just want to be smarter in the world of human performance, I really am appreciative of you being on. So
I appreciate it. Thanks, Teresa. I mean, I hope the message gets out to others, and it's a message that I'm going to continue to carry, especially when I get into my next life. Again, getting ready to go into big change here myself. So it's actually something. This is an aspect of it. There's a lot of different things I'm looking to get into, which it's really exciting. But this is one I want to continue to push, and we'll see where it goes. So, but thanks for the time. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank you for setting the standard, and I look forward to seeing what you're up to next.